My guest, Michelle Fleming, is a certified yoga therapist and structural integrator. She's a fascial release instructor and a neurovascular specialist. She's the founder of Orthopedic Yoga Therapy and the director of Transformational Yoga Teacher Training at Evolution Trainings. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you so much for having me, Michelle. It's great to be here.
So today you're going to talk about reprogramming the brain to rest in joy.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you mean by that?
Sure. So I believe that people have been marketed to think that their brain is supposed to be happy all the time. And if they're not, well, there's something wrong with them. And that's what the mass media tells us all the time with every beer commercial. So it's been amazingly powerful for my journey to help people transform their relationship to their brains, to help people to understand that that's just not how the brain is designed. The brain is designed for stress, and left unchecked, it will always go to stress.
Okay.
It's kept alive.
So what is it? Why are our brains programmed that way?
So we don't die. Right? Mother Nature's been like, okay, you always scan to make sure you're safe because something might be lurking around a rock to eat you. So we have to always scan the horizon to make sure that we're safe. And that's just in a normal brain, never mind in a brain that has been through trauma or a brain that has PTSD, which in this case, we've all just lived through a global pandemic.
Right.
Woo! Yay!
Right.
But,
and no matter how you feel about that, every single person on the planet has experienced some kind of trauma around that.
Absolutely. We were locked in our houses for a really long time. We were estranged from our family. We didn't go to work. We lost people close to us.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has had a severe, stressful couple of years. We were sanitizing every single thing we could possibly sanitize in fear that we might die if we didn't. That was everybody's experience, and that has created stress patterns. And that's on top of the normal stress patterns. And that's just if you're having a fabulously perfect life.
Right.
Never mind if you had a hard life, or your job is stressful, or your family is stressful, or you went through a divorce, or you've had some trauma. If you add that on top of it, the stress patterns are deeply, deeply embedded. And it's where your brain will always go to first, because our first hierarchical priority is to make sure we don't die.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. So, like, what do we do with that? What can we do?
So first and foremost, I find that arming ourselves with that information can be hugely transformative, right? Understanding there's nothing wrong with you if you are in a place of stress on a very regular basis, because that's where our brain goes to. Learning new things actually creates stress. But for instance, the same way you can't play a violin unless the string is under stress, we need stress. Stress is actually good for us. Too much stress is very, very bad for us. It's like inflammation. Some inflammation is actually very, very helpful. Inflammation is what brings fresh oxygenated blood and healing to the tissues when they have a problem. Chronic inflammation is really, really bad for the tissue. The stress response is very similar.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I know that I've heard that, like, even as we grow, even if that next thing seems so good for us, that it still, puts us in this stress response. And it's really interesting because, in some kind of way, it seems like our central nervous system is maybe trying to fight against our growth because it's trying to keep us safe. But also, just on a side note, I love how you are validating like everyone's experience of like, there's nothing wrong with you, because when we have this information, I think that really helps us to be like, oh, that's not necessarily something I have to fix. It's something I have to work with, maybe, and how can I work with that? Yeah,
absolutely. And I like to tell people, when you can find it, you can fix it. Right? When we have an understanding of the stress pathways, well, we can work to help them along, right? One of the things the body really, the number one thing that the body regulates around is hormones. Right?
Okay.
So the two major hormones associated with stress are cortisol and adrenaline. And adrenaline is the one that makes you run fast away from danger, and cortisol is the ones that make you fat while you're sleeping. Right? Cortisol right? Adrenaline is a but it's a go-get-it kind of hormone. Cortisol says, oh my goodness, if you've been under this much stress for this long of a time, well, there must be famine or war. So we're going to keep every calorie right here so we can get at it really easily. And it doesn't matter how many bagels you have in your refrigerator, it's going to put every calorie right there in case it needs it. Because Mother Nature, in some ways, we're working on a very outdated system. Right?
Okay.
So our hormones are like the abacus, and our brain is like the Mac supercomputer.
Okay.
So Mother Nature, she has no idea how many times your mom dropped you on your head, or if you just weren't the brightest light on the Christmas tree. She's going to make sure she puts in these fail-safes to keep you safe, right? The number one biological imperative is to keep you safe. So this hormone says, run away, right? Fight, flight, or freeze, right? You're either going to fight the danger, you're going to run away from it, or you're going to freeze and play dead. Those are that we really do. And for instance, most animals of prey have specialized muscles that disperse the adrenaline after they get scared. If you ever have the opportunity to walk along upon a deer in a clearing, and you happen to see the deer just run away from you, but then stop because you're not really a threat, then you might notice there's a fluttering along its flanks. There's little tiny muscles the deer has to disperse adrenaline. We don't have those muscles. We're supposed to run away from the danger or fight it off when we're stuck, because it's your 3-year-old that you can't run away from, or your mother-in-law, or your job, and you're stuck in that spot, and the stress staying in your body. Now then you have cumulative stress that is really harming you on a physical and a psychological level.
Interesting. You know, I what you said about the deer. When I did the summit back in December, right? I would get off of the call and my entire body would shake. I think it was the letdown from the adrenaline. My entire body would like just have like a shiver response.
And that's a healthy nervous system that does that.
Yay!
So it's dispersing the chemicals and allowing your body to self-regulate. One of the things I teach is a bouncing.
Oh, great.
Bouncing is actually very, very helpful for your body. And the specific way I teach it is designed to disperse the stress hormones. You know, let's just do that right now. Let's just move right into that. We'll just do a little bouncing. So I'm going to demonstrate a little bouncing technique. Okay. So I'm going to turn to the side, and you can see I have a pretty big curve, and I'm even exaggerating the curve in my back right now. And if I bend my knees, you can see how I take my sacrum out of that curve.
Yeah.
So I'm going to drop my sacrum just by bending my knees. I'm going to also think about these ribs coming back, right? So if you put your hands right here in your ribs and you go, shh, notice your ribs knit towards each other and they move back. So as I shift my ribs back, it lifts my rib cage up out of my lower back. This right here is where your kidneys live. And your adrenal glands sit right on top of them like little stocking caps. So when I make a shift noise, I lift my ribs up off of them. And when I bend my knees, I drop the kidneys and just soften them down. So I'm just going to.
Okay.
So right here is lengthening and shortening. And now I'm causing those muscles to contract, which is dispersing the adrenaline and the cortisol. This is also really amazing for your lymphatic system. Your lymphatic system is the system that takes out the trash. This is really good for anybody with diabetes, anybody who's got any chronic pain, anybody who's got any autoimmune disorders. We're just getting our lymphatic system going. It's also excellent for the limbic center of your brain, the emotional center of your brain. The limbic center really likes movement. And it's really, really amazing for this big diamond of what we call thoracolumbar fascia. So here I'm taking it and lengthening it, and then I'm bringing it back up into that compression state. So we're teaching that thoracolumbar fascia to be bouncy again, which is very much one of the major structures that helps us keep our quote unquote spring in our step.
Okay.
Right? Just bouncing. And when you get good at it, you don't have to. You learn how to use the muscles that bring it back, so you don't have to go. But it's when people are first trying it, the shush noise helps a lot. You just.
So just the shush noise.
The shush noise. The shush noise brings the ribs back and takes them up out of your lower back. The knees bend, just drops your sacrum out of it. So on many, many different levels. This is really healthy for the body. And it's something you can do. Okay, I just had a stressful moment. I'm transitioning from school to work. I'm transitioning from work to home. I'm transitioning from that terrible, horrible, stressful experience to the next one. You can literally just Taylor Swift style, shake it off.
There you go. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. So one of my favorite things to teach people, it's gentle, it's easy, it's really great for all ages.
Yeah.
It's also really great for the meniscus, the cartilage in the knee, as long as you're pressing down evenly through your feet.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to like, working with the stress and you just showed us a wonderful way to help kind of diffuse some of that or disperse it in a positive way. What are some other things that we can do to help work with the stress or to reset our brain?
Yeah, great question. So in the same way that I described your brain as like the max supercomputer, you basically have the home screen where your mind loops back to over and over and over. And most of us have set our home screen to what kind of catastrophe might possibly come next. Right?
Okay, yeah.
When left unattended, it's like, oh, and you didn't forgot to do that, and Joey didn't take his vitamins, and you're already 5 minutes late. Sometimes I ask my clients, have you ever had the experience where you go to bed exhausted going, I just didn't get enough done? And then you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh my God, I have so much to do. There's just no way I can possibly get it done.
Right. Yeah.
It's like we've set our home screen to scarcity. We've set our home screen to fear. We've set our home screen to anxiety. And my clients will come and they'll say, but I want to be happy. I want to be regulated. And as much as we, I like to live in the science and the math. As someone who grew up in a mafia household with a very alcoholic father, I love science and math. Science and math makes me feel right. No matter who's bringing the guns in from Ireland to disperse in Boston and sit in the back, no matter how many drinks someone has had, math was always the same. Love myself some math. Right.
That's valid. Mine was I didn't have mafia, but mine was stories. So go figure.
No, my family literally brought the guns and arms from Boston Seaport to Ireland to fund the IRA. My grandfather owned the bar that Whitey Bulger did business out of. Yep, that's the Irish side of my family. So there's a particular level of stress that goes with that.
Yeah.
A pretty high level of stress that goes with that. So the idea of this woo-woo world to me, first of all, was very foreign, was very frowned upon, and it did not make me feel safe. I did not, I couldn't explain it. So I asked people to think about, though, you have probably walked into a room where someone has just had an argument. They're not having it now. There's no evidence of an argument. There's no wine pouring down the wall or someone threw a glass. And there's this, but you walk in and you just know.
You can feel it. It's
you
palpable.
Can feel it. Yes.
Yeah.
You know when your best friend is upset. You know when your husband is mad at you. They might say everything's fine, and you're like, no, everything is not fine. We do have this in our vernacular. We'll say like, oh, I had butterflies in my stomach. It just didn't feel right. I knew something was off. We have this intuition. And now science has been able to prove that we do have this energetic field around us.
Yeah.
Right? We are always generating energy. That's just part of our electromagnetic field. We have that field. And what science is proving now is that really where our minds go, that's where our energy goes. So people are always saying, I want to be neurologically regulated. I want to be happy. I don't want stress.
Right.
Mother Nature doesn't care at all about our words. Right? The words don't matter. What really helps is where you're putting your energy. So it can't be, I want to feel safe. It has to be, I'm safe. So this next tool, let's do this one together. I call this building the road to happy.
Okay.
And I teach a lot of techniques, but really this one is the most powerful for people who choose to do it. So when we think about the neurological system, for me, that was a hard one. I told you I'm a science and math girl. So when I first started taking yoga, I was 21. I was horribly depressed. I grew up with horrible depression and anxiety. And I was always falling down and breaking bones. And when I really didn't know where my body began and ended, I was living outside of my body, being like, you look like shit today. Right? I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I wasn't embodied in my body. Right. And when I first went to yoga and people started talking about the spinning balls of light and all the philosophical tools, I was the girl who got up during final relaxation and went to the Stairmaster to get a few more calories burned. I was very clear that I went to yoga to get nice legs. I wanted nice legs like the girls coming out of the class. And that's how I was very superficial. But
I'm only in it for the legs.
I was only in it for the legs. And about 2 months into it, I realized I hadn't taken my antidepressants in over a month, and I felt better than I'd ever had.
That's powerful right there. Like what you
really
said
was.
just now. Wow.
It really was. And I was only doing it half-assed, right? I was only in it for the legs. But
Yeah.
it was still having this very profound effect on me. So I wanted to study the science behind it. And I started with Einstein's theory of relativity. That made sense to me. Matter and energy can neither be created nor destroyed. They're just interchangeable, right? So we have this energy. We are energy. And when I started looking at what we call in yoga the chakra system, these spinning balls of light, they line up exactly with the nerve plexes of the body. Like,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's funny how that works out, right?
Absolutely. Like, modern science is catching up to ancient wisdom.
Yeah.
So right where the ganglion of the nervous system branched out from the spine and make this kind of shape, there's just an electrical storm in between them, just as it would be between my hands. So first chakra, pudendal nerve complex, energetically ties into your foundation, to your family of origin, and your relationship with death. It's also your relationship with finances. And when it's balanced, you feel safe. You feel held. People who have God as my co-pilot as their bumper sticker on their car, and they really believe that, they have a very, very, very intact first chakra. That first pudendal nerve complex is doing really well because they always feel like someone has their back. Okay. But again, the universe doesn't correspond with, I want to feel safe. It would be nice to feel safe. I'm working on it. Energy is energy.
Yeah.
So
right.
to help balance this out, because when it's balanced, you feel good. When it's not balanced, you'll have anxiety. You'll always be scared about finances. You'll never feel like anyone has your back. You won't feel like you have a foundation. And to balance out first chakra, the feeling is safety. And the words we use are I am safe, but the words again mean nothing. So try this one with me for a few moments, if you would, Michelle. Find out where you feel the safest. And this is how I teach it to people. Maybe it's when you were 3, you have this memory of being on your favorite person's lap and you just felt really safe. Or maybe it was 7 and you would escape to your tree house and you had that like no boys allowed and you were like, this is my space. Or maybe it's yesterday curled up in bed with your small dog and your pillows and your favorite book. Or maybe you don't have one and you're just going to make it up. It doesn't matter. Just like a nightmare is actually really scary for the brain.
Yeah.
You can reprogram the brain to find your homepage of safety. So take a moment and tune into your nervous system and kind of flip through an album of images. And memories work really great, but I don't have a lot of safe memories in my childhood. That's not me.
Right.
I got back from teaching in Nicaragua for 6.5 weeks and running retreats and trainings for doctors and chiropractors and people who want to heal. And it's on the most glorious beach in the world. And I grew up on Cape Cod, and I know beach. And this beach, I literally fall to my knees every year when I get there because it's just everything about it resonates with my soul. So I tell people, flip through your photo album of memories, flip through what images come to your mind. And if you can't find a good one, there's always lots of room on the beach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
So we
So
can just imagine ourselves on your beach in Nicaragua.
if beach
Yeah.
works for you, right? When I
Yeah.
worked with teenagers, I had, I remember in one class I was teaching, I had one young woman who said her safest place was in the snow castles that she would build with her little brother in their yard. And I had another young woman who said, the time I went to the Warp Tour.
Okay. Whatever works.
And I when I was 22, my safest place was in a mosh pit. I totally get it. I totally get it. So it's very individualized, but I like to let people know, if you can't find that safety in your brain, that's okay. You don't have to find it. Make it up.
You can imagine what would help you to feel safe, and that's just good as remembering when you have felt safe.
Yes. What you want is a visceral response, right? You want to feel
Gotcha.
it in your bones. You don't want to think about it. You're like, I wonder if this, do you love the mountains? Do you love the snow? For me, it's always going to be the beach, right? Do you love the forest? And of course, I love all of those places. But where I feel most home, most tuned in, most connected to the divine, to myself, to the people around me, to Mother Nature, for me, it's always going to be the beach. Right?
Yeah.
Some people hate the beach. They don't want to be sandy. They don't like the water. It's too hot. Right? I have a redheaded brother. Beach. So when we find that for ourselves, we just take a moment and we tune in. Where's that place? And not just thinking about it, putting yourself in that place. I am safe.
So when you say putting yourself in that place, you mean drawing in the senses? Like,
so people learn differently and their nervous systems react differently. Some of us are more kinesthetic learners. Some of us, it's more auditorial. Some of us, it's more visualization. I work with people individually. So what I want them to do is picture it in their mind, maybe taste it in their mouth. Do you hear waves and the seagulls? Or maybe it's the crickets and the leaves crunching under the small animals in the forest.
right.
I want people to understand, like, okay, what color is the sky there? What does it smell like in your happy place? Does it smell like your favorite relative's Old Spice? Does it smell like the beach and suntan? Does it smell like freshly mowed grass?
Yeah.
I really want people to go there in their mind. Because here's the thing, we're building the road. Your brain, it loses synapses and it builds synapses all of the time. And the number one most deeply etched groove in that road is going to be the road to stress. Because that's your biological imperatives to keep you safe.
Right.
So if you don't want your brain to go to stress on accident, you have to give it someplace to go on purpose.
That makes sense. So is this something that you would recommend that folks would practice like daily, or?
Depends how stressed out they are, right?
Yeah.
So this is one piece of it. So we're going to go through a couple different feelings and we're going to get to this, what I call the happy place. So the first layer is, where do you feel safe?
Okay.
And finding that. Where is it? Get it in your brain. Make the colors a little more vivid. What does it smell like there? What are the sensations on your skin? Is someone hugging you? Is the blanket on top of you? Do you like weights on your body? Is your small dog cuddled up next to you, or your beloved or your child? Where do you feel safe? And build the synapses, build the road in your brain to that place. Second chakra is the nerve complex right above it. It sits right around your sacrum, sacral chakra. And that's all about the family that we make in this lifetime, the children that we make, the people that we draw into our lives. It's also the seat of our creativity and our sexuality. It's all about a feeling of belong and lovable. right? It's the tribe that we have. And this is a very, very ancient feeling. Back in the day, if you didn't have a tribe, well, you were cast out of the circle and you were probably eaten by the wolves, right?
Yeah, you were dead.
That circle around that fire to keep you safe. And if you weren't, you were not safe. Our tribe was hugely important. And within this place of safety and lovable and belonging, we give ourselves permission to try new things, even if we're terrible at them, just because we want to try them on, right? Mm-hmm. We give ourselves permission to try new identities. We, check out, do I like abstract painting? No, I hate abstract painting. Do I want to try writing poetry? It turns out I'm a terrible poet, but I really like it. I'm going to do it more, right? What permission do we give ourselves? And we give ourselves permission when second chakra is in balance. And when it's not, we always feel like we are too much and not enough. And very often vacillating those two, right? So second chakra, the feeling that balances out second chakra is lovable. And that can be a lot harder for people. So this is how I teach it to people. Who do you love? Ungrateful, rotten children that you love very much work really well.
The partner that always leaves their socks on the floor, you love them tremendously. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And you love those people or dogs or cats or your favorite red shoes, whatever. That you love what you love, not because it's perfect, right? Your dog has pooped on the floor. So probably. You don't love them because they're perfect. They do leave their crap everywhere. Literal and figurative crap everywhere. Right? But you still love them. Even though sometimes you're like, oh my God, why did you do that thing? That thing is so stupid. You still love them. So you don't love them because they're perfect. You love them because you love them. So what does it feel like to love something like that? What is the feeling that goes around with that? Find that feeling. Don't think too hard about it. Just find the feeling. And then turn it inward, because that person loves you just as much. Your dog is so happy to see you. They love you so much. Right?
Yeah.
And my teenager, even though he doesn't act like it, I know he loves me so much.
Yeah.
He loves me so much, he calls me for money all the time.
That's such a great practice to first experience that love that you have for someone else, and then, oh, well, let's turn that inward. Like, let's feed that to ourselves. Let's use that to source the beginnings of an actual relationship within.
Right. Because it's really easy to be like, okay, feel lovable. People are like, yeah, okay.
Right. Okay. Let me just pull that one out of my hat.
I'm not looking for the word. It's not the word.
Yeah.
It's the feeling. Right? Yeah. So take a moment and just be completely immersed in that lovable feeling. Who do you love? You'll know you're doing a good job when you can't help but lift the corners of your mouth and the corners of your eyes. I am safe. I am lovable. I belong. Third chakra is above that. It's solar plexus, also called celiac plexus. It's literally the nerves that feed your guts. It's how you take in nutrition on a physical level. And energetically, it's the sense of agency, that we're allowed to have power. In martial arts, this is your hara center. Yeah. In yoga and Ayurvedic medicine, it's third chakra. And it's the ability that you're allowed to take up space, not that you have to aggressively. The best defense is a good offense, and not that you're cowering down. You're a little nervous about taking up space. It's just that you're allowed to have your experience in exactly the way it suits for you. You don't have to be combative. You don't have to be submissive. You're just allowed to take up space.
It's almost like a sense of you're resting in your center.
Yes. And that from that place, you were allowed to move through the world with agency, from a place of power. right? Feeling like, okay, I have control over my own life. I don't need to control everybody,
Right?
but this is my
Big
life.
difference.
There's a big difference. There is,
Yeah.
right? And even that, even those of us who've got some serious trust issues, it's not that we're trying to control all of our surroundings. The one constant is that life is going to keep throwing you curveballs.
Mm-hmm.
How you catch them, how you redirect them, how you laugh as they go over your head. That's really what determines the quality of your life. It's not that
Right.
so far, like no curveballs are ever going to show up ever again. That's just the lie, right? Don't have expectations that all of a sudden life will be perfect. You're going to be really disappointed. But know that no matter what life hands you, you've got agency. You can handle it. You've built your foundation. You love yourself enough to do the work. When life throws you some curveballs, you're like, okay, I can adapt. I can move. I have such a steady foundation. I can come over here. I can come over here. I can reach way up there. Right? And you, from that place of power, from that place of agency, everything's doable.
Yeah. I have the power to control my own responses and the power to be in alignment with my choices, be intentional in my choices, and that the power to navigate my life.
Right.
Yeah.
Because even when we don't feel like we have choices, we always have choices. Even when our choices get very limited, well, how do we respond to those limits?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Do we respond with anger? Do we respond with love? Do we respond with gratitude? How do we show up for ourselves first and foremost, and then for our world? So,
Right.
and when third chakra is in balance, you really can, you find that stable foundation and you get to dance on it. And when it's not in balance, no matter how much money you have, no matter how loved you are, you will never feel like it's enough. You will never feel grounded, ever.
Yeah. That's important for people to know that. Yeah.
So we consciously ground it. So I
Yeah.
asked people to find a time and a space where they felt agency, where they felt powerful. Maybe you had an amazing birth experience and you were like, I just made a person. Yes. Right? Maybe it's your birthday. Maybe it's your wedding day. Maybe it's your divorce day. Where is the time where you were like, I am in control of my life and I feel like I'm doing a good job? And if you can't find one, make it up. See yourself standing on top of that mountain in your power pose. See yourself teaching that class. See yourself leading that course. See yourself driving that race car. That is not my happy place, but I'm sure it's someone else's.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in the stars. I don't want to be in the snow. I'm all over the Warped Tour. But it's not for me to decide. Where do you feel safe, loved, and where do you feel agency? So take a moment and find that place. You'll know you're doing a good job when you can't help but lift the corners of your mouth and the corners of your eyes. I have agency. I'm allowed to stand in my power and feel valued. What does that feel like? I have control over my choices, my body, my mind. And from that place, I can move forward in a positive manner. I got this.
I think that the I got this is one of the most powerful mantras I've ever repeated for myself. Because even if I don't know what the hell I'm doing, right? There's that inner knowing, like, I'll figure it out. I got this.
Got
I got
this.
this.
So that's my little shorthand for third chakra, right? The I am safe, I am loved, I got this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
This-
when we go ahead.
I just wanted to say, I just want to validate this work because I had a client that was feeling some kind of way about going on a job interview. And I suggested, when was the last time you felt really super confident? And he said, the last time I felt really super confident was when I lifted like super massive heavy weights at the gym, right? To each their own. And I said, well, what did your body feel like? How were you standing when you did that? You know? Yeah, he went through the whole process the morning of the job interview and aced it. Like totally job interview.
Exactly. right? Some people they'll walk in with their power animal that makes them feel really confident and safe. I love that. Like that time I lifted that heavy weight at the gym, that would just make me tired and think about all of the damage I was doing to my shoulders and spine. And that's why it really is a very personal practice. Some people aren't going to like my beach. The water scares them. They don't like getting sand in their toes. Where do you feel great? And from that place, this is how we build what I call the road to happy, right? So you find that, okay, touch in, I'm safe. You touch in, I am loved. And for most of the people that I work with, when we get, especially that second one, I call it like the faking it till you make it, because they're like, I don't really feel lovable. I don't know if I'm loved. I feel kind of crappy. That's why I'm here. So the way I usually add in another step of I am safe. I am loved. I love myself enough to do all of the hard work it takes to step into my power. I got this.
Yeah. Bridge. I like the bridge.
Bridge, right? Because I remember one of my yoga teachers, what this ended up being is what's called a sankalpa in yoga. Right? A sankalpa it translates to heart's desire. And one of my teachers would say, I move through life with grace and ease. And I was like, that must be nice, but I'm not there yet. And I move through life with grace and ease was such a far stretch for so many of my clients that I've never had anybody who was like, yep, that's my sankalpa. So I break it down into the parts, but then I ask people to make it their mantra, right? I had one woman who said, I am held in God's hand. I feel his love all the time. And from there, I move forward through life with purpose.
Yeah.
Right. So it has to resonate with the person. For me, I really resonate with I am safe. I am loved. I got this. That's my sankalpa. Right? That's my mantra. Yeah. But it's personal for everybody. So for anybody who's watching, I really encourage you at this moment to take a moment and mulch, right? Throw all those words in a wood chipper and figure out what comes out the other side that really resonates with you. What is the few little words? You don't want it to be a Dostoevsky novel. It can't take you like 10 minutes to recite. You don't need, if you need Cliff Notes to remember what then you didn't find one that's going to work really well. Find the shorthand one that you can say quickly and then immediately gets you to what we call our happy place. So the happy place is the culmination of I am safe, I am loved, I got this. If you had a beam me up Scotty button, right, for that old Star Trek reference.
Yeah.
If you had that, like, okay, I can push this button and it will bring me to wherever in the world, wherever in the universe, wherever in time. Where's the place where you feel best? And it can be, again, flipping through that picture book and finding a memory, or you can make it up. Right? Have you always wanted to live in the Rocky Mountains? Great, put yourself there. Have you always wanted to be the head of the CEO of the Fortune 500? That sounds awful to me, but great, put yourself there. Right? Do you want to live in the snow? I don't. Put yourself there. I'm gonna be on the beach every time. There's me on the beach. Not the beach from my childhood. The beach from my childhood is covered with people from Connecticut and New York who take up all the space on the beach, right? I go to that special spot in Nicaragua where it's just me and lots of baby turtles.
Yeah.
Okay. Where is your favorite place? And you don't have to be able to be there physically. I'm in St. Louis. There's no beach here.
And for some people, maybe this would bring to mind, that question that they ask sometimes in personal development, like, what's the scene? Where are you? If you had 24 hours to live, where would you be? Who would you be with? What would it look like? Mine is the same every time I inquire about it. It's a picnic with my kids. And in my mind, it's overlooking a valley in France. I don't know. I haven't been to France yet, but that's where my mind goes. So imagine, yeah.
Exactly. I have a lot of people who tell me their happy places in Bali, but they've never been to Bali.
There you
But
go.
they imagine what Bali looks like. That's perfectly fine. And if it's France or if it's wherever it is, that's great. Maybe it's, you know, you're the CEO of the Fortune 500 company. You've taken your whole staff to the mountains. I don't care.
Maybe
Right?
you're walking up on a stage, whatever your happy place is.
Whatever makes you happy. Yep. Maybe you're performing to a huge sold out crowd at Redbox. Whatever makes you happy.
Surrounded by hundreds of screaming babies, but maybe that makes you happy.
Nothing to do with it, but that's not my happy place. And that's what's so great about it, is there's room for everybody. And I remind people, it doesn't have to be real. Just like that nightmare is actually scary to your brain, this imaginary place is actually therapeutic for your brain. So
great reminder. Yeah.
Yeah. And just, we find that grounded, we touch in, I am safe, I am loved, I got this, or whatever you determine the words to be. And then just put yourself in that place. And again, really picture it. What does it smell like? What colors? Can you make them a little brighter or a little more vivid? What's the sky look like? What do you hear? Is the rustle of the wind through the leaves or across the waves, or the crowd roars of all the screaming fans? What is it? What makes you light up from the inside? And it only works if it makes you lift the corners of your mouth and the corners of your eyes. Because here's another neurological hack. If you lift the corners of your mouth for 60 seconds, your brain spits out the neurochemical cascade associated with you being happy. You do not have to be happy for it to work. It works great for long work meetings and family gatherings you did not want to be invited to. You just show up and you just put the thing on your face. And after 60 seconds, the hormones have spit out that now are actually making you happy. And if you're from Boston like I am, it also makes your family really annoyed because they're like, why are you so happy? And that's kind of like an added little bonus. You can take the girl out of Boston. You can't take the Boston out of the girl.
And then you're smiling for real. Then, you know.
Right. A fake smile will turn into a real smile after 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Your brain is literally always scanning your facial expression to see what mood to put you in.
Bingo. Yeah, that's important for sure. So it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like once you get into the practice of doing this regularly, that it actually wouldn't take a tremendous amount of time, but just a few minutes once you get used to these places that you're putting yourself in.
Exactly. You nailed it. Right? When you get good at it, it takes a few seconds. So I also ask people to take a few times throughout the day, many, many times if they can. I tell my clients to set a little reminder on their computer if they're on their computer a lot. Or if you change a lot of diapers throughout the day, great. Every time you change a diaper, where's my body? Where's my mind? If you drive a lot, okay. Every time you get to a red light, notice if your nose is trying to get through the red light before even the front of your car. Where's my body? Where is my mind? And you just take those few minutes. And what we're doing is we're making that road to happy. We're making that the deepest rut in the road. In the road of where your brain goes to. Again, the deepest ruts are always going to go to stress if left unchecked. But at any moment, you can be like, U-turn. I don't want that anymore. I want to be happy. I want to feel peaceful. I want to feel grounded. I want to be in my body instead of outside in the anxiety. Right? So whenever you consciously decide to make that turn and decide to root yourself in joy, you will grow roots there. And those roots are literally synaptic connections, right? That white matter in your brain connects the gray matter together. And we're now recognizing that physiology and psychiatry go together. So for instance, if you have PTSD, there's these little structures in your brain called the amygdala. We know when people have PTSD, on one side, it tends to be larger than the other side. We don't know if the PTSD has caused the irregular size change or if the irregular size change makes you more susceptible to PTSD. We know in severe stress that we see the fox, the central channel, this big white matter structure that literally divides the two halves of the brain. We see it fall on people with severe trauma. And now the connections, they're not there anymore because you have these two separate halves and the connecting structure has dropped down. And now this upper part of your brain literally is no longer connected. We don't know if the trauma causes it to lose the connections, or the lack of connections makes you more susceptible to the trauma, right? Because one person might take a terrible occurrence as horrible trauma and have to have years and years of therapy, and another person might just take it as a bad day.
Yes.
It's how our nervous systems are actually processing the information. So the other tools I like to give people is this idea of tuning the dial. Right, when I get in my car, I can tune my dial to like talk radio, country, classic rock. I can just tune my dial. You can do that with your brain all the time, right? We talked about this energy field. At any point, you can tune your dial to joy, to how mad I am at my mom, to that one time, to my ex-husband. And you can, when you tune your dial to your ex-husband, does your day get better? No, it does not get better. And your ex-husband wins because you're sending him all of your energy. Like an extension cord that goes out to feed that resentment, it goes right into him. As much as I know this is for a science and math girl, I'm getting into the woo-woo, but you've all had that experience of like, oh, I was just thinking about you.
Yes, yeah, right.
Just thinking about your best friend, and she's 3,000 miles away, but you were thinking about her, and she picks up the phone, she calls you. Because your energy is tied into her energy. It's also tied into everything that you're still mad at. It's also tied into every little thing you haven't forgiven yet. It's also tied into your fears. And when we cut those cords, think about how much more energy we have.
This is a personal practice of mine. I just have to say, calling in the cords and cutting them regularly, or the strings, or however you want to call it, because I am energetically sensitive. If there's someone that I don't know that's out there that's mad at me about something, I get a headache. I feel it in some kind of way, and it's not okay. Like, I need to clear my cords regularly. And, or if someone just wants my attention, sometimes it can show up the same thing. So I think that this is another great practice for people to use, just to kind of like make sure, like, I became most free to enjoy myself and have fun and build my bridge towards joy by releasing the crap.
Absolutely. And again, if you can find it, you can fix it. I'm a very overeducated, too smart for my own good person who grew up in a medical/mafia family in Boston. I'm always thinking, right? We all went to Ivy League schools. We're pains in the asses, right? I'm always thinking. Where mine likes to go to is judgment.
Yeah.
And I swim in some serious woo-woo waters where sometimes I'm like, shh, you're so pretty when you don't talk. Something comes out of people's mouths. Like, oh, you're making us all look so bad. There's a lot of people out there who are very uninformed and are not helping our cause in some ways.
I literally just wrote about this today. There's a difference between judgment and discernment, and judgment is a default. I tend to go towards judgment, and you have to like notice it and check it and be like, is that true? Where did I hear that? What makes me think that? I don't think that's true.
Yeah, and for me, I'm like, oh, look at you doing it again. And but of course, the pitfall of that is then I'm judging myself or judging somebody else.
Yeah.
And actually more deeply embedding judgment into my brain.
Yeah. So acceptance. Look at what I'm doing. Like you just said, look what I'm doing.
Oh, look at me being judgmental again.
Yeah.
Right? Dorothy Parker was one of my favorite writers. And she had this, oh, it's not nice, but it's still so funny. She had this little saying she would say, if you don't have anything nice to say, come sit next to me.
Yeah.
But that's, it's not helping us, right? My judgment doesn't help me. It doesn't make me more joyous. So when I notice my dial loves to go to judgment, probably because it makes me feel safe. It makes me like, look at how much more I know than that person. Go me.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And everybody has their gifts and everybody knows different things. And not everybody has the ridiculously intelligent brain that I have that causes me so many problems. Right? My overactive brain, there's been very few times that my overactive brain has actually gotten me further in life. It usually just likes to make me miserable, right? It likes to, I saw someone today, she said, wait, just let me overthink that for a moment. She had a t-shirt on. Just let me overthink that. I was like,
That's
I'm
real right there. That is super real.
I told her to overthink that. I can't remember exactly what it said, but I was like, I love your shirt. And she was like, you do? And I was like, don't think too hard about it, but I do. Right? So here's the thing. If you really want to take the sting and the trauma and the any of the negative contexts away from your shortcomings, your own trauma, your own not so great experiences, the number one thing you do is to say thank you. Right? What my judgment is trying to do, my judgment is trying to keep me safe.
Yeah.
My judgment is trying to make me feel like a whole person. My judgment is trying to say like, look, see, sweetheart, you're doing great because that person's so dumb.
Right.
But it doesn't make me happier. But what I get to go is, oh, thank you so much for trying to keep me safe, judgment. I really appreciate you.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go back to gratitude now.
Yes, yes, yes. That's perfect. That just outlines the work, as we say. Like we accept it, we don't resist it, we notice it, we work our way through it, and then that gratitude piece, like, oh, it's trying to protect me in some kind of way.
So I work with people in huge pain. Most of my clients come to me because they're in physical pain, and I'm a very adept body worker. I do visceral release. I'm a nerve and artery specialist. I've got more hours training in fascial release than few other people in the world, and I'm really great at getting people out of pain. And I've been doing it for several decades now. And what I've learned through my intense study with my Too Smart for My Own Good Brain and through my work with my fingers in people's bodies is that your pain is always trying to protect you.
Yes.
I do a huge amount of work with people with addictions. I ran a summer camp for girls with anxiety and mood disorders for over a decade. So intense emotional pain, intense physical pain. Pain is always trying to protect us. And when we go in and we say, thank you so much for trying to protect me. I appreciate your efforts. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you. I'm so sorry I didn't recognize your intent. Please forgive me.
Yeah.
And then very often your pain has something it wants to say.
It's important to listen. Yeah. Yeah.
And the practice of listening takes some time. So I ask people to say the words and then just listen. And they're like, and this is the way I like to say this. Notice what you notice. You might not notice a lot. You might notice a huge amount. You might notice you're not so good at noticing. All of those are on the road to noticing. Because again, if you can find it, you can fix it. If you can't find it, it's really hard to fix it. So when we get to, because really what I've noticed, most of people's pain says, I'm mad at you. I feel ignored by you. I feel abandoned by you, right? Because we have all had the experience of getting up in the morning and every cell in our body says, I just don't got it in me today. I can't do it. Just pull the covers up. I'm done. But the diaper wasn't going to change itself and your mortgage wasn't going to pay itself. And so you got your butt out of bed and you probably threw in a little extra coffee at it that day and maybe some Advil. And that's okay. That doesn't make us bad people. But that tends to become the cycle that happens over and over and over and over. And then we experience this pain and we just throw more Advil in and more coffee. Like, oh, you bother me. I'm tired. You bother me. I'm tired. You bother me. We just get in this cycle of just trying to ignore it or demonize our pain. And when our pain is saying is, hey, we have a problem here. We got to deal with this. And you're like, nope, don't have time for you.
Mm-hmm.
So very
Or
often,
pretend it's not there. Like, I'm just gonna pretend it's not there. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Or I'm gonna push it away and just power through. But it does eventually catch up. That's a really valid.
I work with a huge amount of people with autoimmune disorders. And for me, autoimmune disorders that your body's been like, hey, I need you to take care of this. Hey, I need you to take care of this. Hey, I need you to take it. Hey, I need you to pay attention. Hey, I need you to pay attention. And you've been like, nope, sorry, I don't have time. Nope, and then your body's like, that's fine. I'm just going to take you out of the knees. And you're going to be flat on your back. And then you're going to have to listen to me. That's what autoimmune disorders are.
Yeah.
That and the doctor saying, like, we actually have no idea what's wrong with you. So we're going to call it fibromyalgia.
Yeah.
Fibromyalgia is like a whole retraction, tightening of the entire nervous and fascial systems, which go together like this. Because in your cutaneous nerve, they live and they crawl within that fascial layer, right? And the whole thing has retracted and pulled back, and everything hurts. And I can go in there and I can, little thread by little thread, give people a huge amount of relief from that pain. And then it's not stuck, and they can go out there and move and groove and actually get the lubricant in there, and they feel so much better. But if they're going to go back to their same stress patterns, it's going to take a few years, but over the next few years, that tightness is going to come back.
Yeah.
So
the inner work is necessary too.
Absolutely. And hand in hand, that's where the magic happens. I tell my clients all the time. The last week that I was in Nicaragua, I trained 35 chiropractors and chiropractors to be. And there's this really interesting conversation that's happening in the chiropractic world between the philosophical, the body heals itself, and the mechanical, the bones need to be where they're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent my whole week explaining to them, yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because when you know the science well enough,
yeah,
and you know the anatomy well enough, you can't help but be amazed by the magic of the human form.
I agree.
Because it's magic. It's unbelievable. But if you don't understand the science, you sound like a moron when you're talking about magic, right? You have to, there's a level of woo-woo. If you're asking people to go with you, you have to give them a foundation to get there.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm that person. Like if I needed that foundation of Einstein's theory of relativity to be able to sit through the spinning balls of light chat.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So once I bought into like, okay, there's some science that I can feel safe in, right? I had to feel safe. I had to have that foundation of feeling safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't feel safe floating in the woo-woo waters until I could grow roots down into the science. And in that place, well, there's lots of magic there.
Well, this has been such a fantastic talk, Michelle. Again, Michelle Fleming, and tell people, first of all, how they can find you. So website, social media.
So I'm kind of like that Waldo character in that book. Like, where on the earth is Michelle Fleming? So I teach retreats in beautiful locations. I'm building a center on the beach in Nicaragua, 12 kilometers from the Costa Rican border. And I run retreats all winter there. I have a sailing and yoga and shamanism retreat with the shaman I work with. That's in the Greek islands in September. I'll be in Bali in October and November, and then back in my beloved Nicaragua in January. I do a lot of my appointments online these days. I teach yoga teacher trainings, 200-hour yoga teacher trainings, 500-hour advanced yoga teacher trainings, and 1,000-hour yoga therapy training, which is where the neurology, the physiology, and the hands-on body work meet. I go between Clayton, Missouri, and Duxbury, Massachusetts every month to see clients. And you can find me at evolutiontrainings.com. There's an S on the end of that, Evolution Trainings. Or you can email me if you want at orthopedicyoga@gmail.com.
Thank you, Michelle. It's just been an absolutely just enlightening and anchoring chat, and I know that there's going to be so many people that are going to benefit from this share. So I'm really grateful for you, and thanks for sharing your gifts with us.
No, thank you so much for having me, Michelle. It's really been lovely, and I'm really excited to hear from all of the other speakers and yourself, and I look forward to sharing in the future. Lots of love.
Awesome. Bye-bye.